When you think of revolutions in Africa, your mind might first go to politics, speeches, or the struggles of independence decades ago. But sometimes revolutions don't come from words. Sometimes they come from machines. Big, loud, unstoppable machines that dig, build, and shape the future. And that's exactly what Ibrahim Traoré has just unleashed in Burkina Faso. 764 machines. It's a number that doesn't just feel big, it feels historic. Try to picture that for a moment. Rows and rows of powerful tractors, bulldozers, harvesters, and earth movers lined up under the sun, waiting to roll out. The ground shaking as engines roar to life, dust rising, hearts beating faster, people staring in awe because they know this is not just about machines. It's about a new beginning. It's about hope finally looking real, not just spoken in promises. For too long, Africa has been trapped in the same painful cycle. A continent blessed with natural riches, but struggling to turn those blessings into prosperity for its people. Nations dependent on outsiders for infrastructure, food, and even the basics of survival. Leaders who talk about change but rarely back it up with action. But here comes Ibrahim Traoré, a young leader with a fire in his chest, and instead of just speaking, he acts. He puts steel and iron on the ground. He gives the people something they can touch, something they can climb onto, something that can move mountains, dash literally 764 machines. Think about the scale. That's not just a photo opportunity. That's a full-on declaration of intent. It says, we are building for ourselves. We are feeding ourselves. We are no longer waiting for handouts, loans, or permission. This is Burkina Faso, standing up tall and saying, we're ready to carve our own future, and when one country does it, others are watching closely. That's why this moment feels bigger than Burkina Faso. It feels African. Machines may look like cold metal, but when you put them in the right hands, they become instruments of life. A tractor is not just a tractor, it's food on the table for thousands. A bulldozer is not just a bulldozer, it's the foundation of roads, schools, and hospitals. A harvester is not just a harvester, it's security, stability, and dignity for farmers who no longer have to rely on outdated tools. Every one of those 764 machines carries a story, a heartbeat, a chance to change someone's tomorrow, and you can almost feel the pride in people's voices when they talk about it. Imagine a farmer who has struggled for years, bending under the sun with simple hand tools, suddenly seeing a massive tractor pulling up to his field. Imagine the relief in his eyes, the excitement in his children, the quiet prayer of thanks whispered by his wife. This is not just a machine, it's a miracle made of metal. It's a dream finally parked on his land. That's why this step resonates so deeply. It's emotional. It's human. Because development isn't just about GDP numbers or government reports. It's about how people feel when they see progress. It's about hope being visible, noisy, and undeniable. And when 764 machines are driving across Burkina Faso, you can't miss that hope. It's everywhere, rolling past villages, moving through towns, and reminding everyone that something has shifted. Ibrahim Traoré has done something bold here. He's not just leading with speeches. He's leading with proof. And proof is powerful. Proof silences doubt. Proof shuts the mouths of critics who say Africa cannot rise. Proof tells the people, look, we're doing it. Not tomorrow, not next year, right now. And you can feel the energy that creates. People start to believe again. They start to dream bigger. They start to imagine a future where they don't have to depend on someone else to solve their problems. The symbolism is huge too. For decades, Africa has been portrayed as the land of poverty, of need, of waiting for foreign aid. But a fleet of nearly 800 machines screams a different story. It screams independence. It screams pride. It screams we are no longer the ones who wait. We are the ones who build. That shift in narrative is priceless. Because before you change the world physically, you first have to change how people see themselves. And that's what's happening here. Now picture the ripple effects. Those machines build more than roads and fields. They build confidence. They build unity. They build a sense that Africa can rely on Africa. Neighboring countries look over and think, If Burkina Faso can do it, why can't we? And just like that, a fire spreads. One bold step in Ouagadougou inspires 10 more steps in Bamako, Niamey, and beyond. Leaders take note. Citizens demand more. The entire continent feels the tremor of change. What makes it even more moving is the man behind it. Ibrahim Traoré'S is young, fiery, and unafraid. He doesn't come across like the old, tired politicians who recycle the same speeches year after year. He comes across as someone willing to take risks, to defy expectations, to put his money where his mouth is. And that energy is contagious. It makes people believe that this is not just another empty promise. This is real. Of course, challenges will come. Machines alone can't fix everything. They need fuel, maintenance, skilled operators, and careful planning. But the first step is always the hardest, and Traoré has taken it boldly. He has shown that leadership isn't about waiting until everything is perfect. Leadership is about starting, about moving forward, even when obstacles remain, about giving people something to rally around. And that's exactly what these 764 machines represent. They are more than steel. They are a message. A message that Africa is no longer content with being at the bottom. A message that the youth, the workers, the farmers, the builders, all deserve better. And they're going to get it. A message that the continent is ready to stand on its own 2 feet and roar into the future with engines loud enough for the whole world to hear. When you hear about Ibrahim Traoré'S silos machines, it's easy to think of them simply as heavy equipment tractors, bulldozers, harvesters, and industrial vehicles. But the truth is, they are much more than that. They are a powerful symbol, a loud and unstoppable declaration that Africa is stepping into a new chapter, one defined by independence, dignity, and self-reliance. For too long, Africa has been painted as a continent that needs saving. Its stories have often been told by outsiders, its solutions imported from far away. But now, with these machines rolling across the land, something feels different. Something feels like the start of a long-awaited transformation. The symbolism goes far beyond metal and engines. Each one of those 764 machines represents a dream that Africa is no longer content to leave unfulfilled. They represent fields that will finally be cultivated by African hands, roads that will be built by African workers, an infrastructure that will serve African communities, not because someone else provided it, but because Africa built it for itself. This is about reclaiming control over destiny, and that's what makes this moment so deeply emotional for so many people. Independence, in its truest sense, is not about speeches or political declarations. It's about the power to create, to build, to sustain, and to grow without having to beg for permission or assistance. And for decades, that's been one of Africa's biggest struggles. Too often, development projects have come with strings attached. Investments have come with conditions, and loans have turned into long-term traps. But when Ibrahim Traoré's stands before his people and says, "We will do this ourselves," and then proves it by delivering hundreds of machines, it sends a clear message: the era of dependency is ending. There's a certain pride that comes with self-reliance, a pride that can't be imported or bought. It's the same feeling a farmer gets when he harvests his own field, or a builder feels when he completes a house with his own hands. It's the satisfaction of knowing that the future is not being dictated by foreign boardrooms or distant governments, but being shaped by local communities. And that's why these machines have stirred so much emotion across Burkina Faso and beyond. Because they are not just tools. They are proof that Africa can do it. Proof that the solutions to African problems don't have to come from outside. You can see the shift already taking place in people's attitudes. Instead of waiting for aid or foreign companies to build their roads, people are organizing locally. Instead of relying on imported food, they're investing in agriculture powered by their own equipment. And instead of feeling powerless, there's a new sense of confidence, a belief that Africa can be the author of its own story. That psychological shift might be the most powerful part of all. Because when people... It's also important to understand the historical weight behind this moment. For centuries, Africa's resources have been extracted and its wealth exported, often leaving behind poverty and underdevelopment. Even after independence, many countries found themselves trapped in cycles of dependency, relying on former colonial powers or global institutions to finance development. But real independence means breaking free from those cycles. It means saying we can build our own future with our own hands. And every one of those 764 machines is a tangible expression of that idea. What's beautiful is that this isn't about isolationism or shutting the world out. It's about partnership from a position of strength. When Africa builds with its own hands, negotiates with confidence, and contributes as an equal rather than a dependent, the entire global relationship changes. That's what these machines represent, a shift from a passive recipient to an active creator. And that shift has the power to redefine Africa's place in the world. Imagine a young child in Burkina Faso watching these machines work, seeing roads being built, farms expanding, and infrastructure rising. That child will grow up with a different vision of what's possible. They'll grow up believing that Africa is capable of greatness, that its people can create world-class solutions, and that they don't have to look elsewhere for answers. That kind of belief shapes generations. It builds nations. And it all starts with bold, symbolic actions like this one. There's also a deeper emotional layer to all of this, a sense of healing. For decades, Africans have been told, directly or indirectly, that they need saving. That message leaves scars. But when the continent starts solving its own problems, it rewrites that narrative. It replaces feelings of dependency with empowerment. It replaces a story of weakness with one of strength. And it shows the world, and more importantly, shows itself, that Africa was never lacking potential. It just needed the right tools, the right leadership, the courage to believe in itself. That's why Ibrahim Traoré'S 764 machines are not just machines. They are symbols of freedom. They are the heartbeat of a continent determined to rise. They are the foundation on which a new chapter of self-reliance is being written. One where Africa is not just participating in the global story, but leading it. The arrival of Ibrahim Traoré'S 764 machines is not just a symbolic move. It's a practical solution to some of the most pressing challenges that Africa has been facing for generations. Farming, infrastructure, and food security are not abstract issues. They're daily realities that determine whether families eat, whether children can get to school, whether farmers can thrive, and whether communities can survive. These machines, in their power and presence, speak directly to those needs. They are the bridge between dreams and reality, between survival and prosperity. Think of farming first. For too long, agriculture in Africa has been held back by outdated methods. Farmers working by hand, using basic tools, struggling under the hot sun while facing enormous fields that could feed thousands if only they had the means to cultivate them properly. It's heartbreaking to imagine someone putting in back-breaking labor, day after day, and still not producing enough to feed their own family, let alone their village. But what happens when you place a tractor in that same field? Suddenly, the impossible becomes possible. Land that once took weeks to prepare can now be ready in hours. Fields that sat idle because they were simply too big for human hands can now be cultivated efficiently. Yields increase. Food becomes abundant. And hunger, slowly but surely, begins to fade. These machines are more than steel. They are the hands of farmers multiplied 100 times over. They give dignity back to the people who have always carried the heaviest burden, the farmers. Imagine the look on a farmer's face when they see a powerful harvester rolling into their field, ready to transform their work from exhausting struggle into efficient productivity. That's not just progress. That's hope taking shape right in front of their eyes. Families that once worried about the next meal can start planning for tomorrow with confidence. Food security stops being a fragile dream and starts becoming a solid reality. Then there's infrastructure. Machines like bulldozers, graders, and excavators are the backbone of development. Roads, bridges, schools, and hospitals don't appear out of thin air. They're built with hard work and heavy equipment. Without machines, construction is painfully slow, sometimes impossible. But with them, villages connect to towns, towns connect to cities, and suddenly opportunities expand. A road isn't just a road, it's a lifeline. It's a pathway for farmers to bring their goods to market. It's the route for children to reach school without walking for hours. It's the connection for doctors, nurses, and teachers to reach the places they are needed most. Every road built by these machines carries with it a ripple of change that touches thousands of lives. Picture a dusty, isolated village in Burkina Faso, cut off from opportunities because of poor infrastructure. Now picture a bulldozer clearing a path, a grader smoothing the surface, and trucks laying down the foundation for a proper road. That village is no longer isolated, it's connected, and connection means growth. It means trade. It means healthcare. It means education. These are not just technical improvements, they are human stories of progress. Of mothers no longer worrying about reaching a hospital in time, of children no longer missing school because the journey is too long, of farmers no longer watching their crops rot because they can't reach the marketplace. Food security, in particular, strikes a deep chord. Africa has the potential to feed not just itself, but the world. Its soil is rich, its climate diverse, and its people are skilled. And yet, hunger persists. Why? Because the tools to fully unlock that potential have always been out of reach. These 764 machines are a step toward changing that. They represent a chance to finally break free from the paradox of abundance coexisting with scarcity. By making farming efficient, by opening up land that was once untouchable, by producing food on a larger scale, these machines can turn food security into a permanent state instead of a constant worry. What makes this so moving is that it's not just about numbers or statistics, it's about lives. It's about the mother who can feed her children without wondering if tomorrow will bring an empty plate. It's about the farmer who can finally sell his surplus at the market, earning enough to send his children to school. It's about entire communities being lifted from despair into possibility. And it's about a continent finally beginning to tap into the wealth it already has. Using its own tools and its own determination, Ibrahim Traoré'S move is bold because it addresses the root of the problem. Too often, aid and assistance come in the form of temporary fixes. But machines, real, tangible tools, create permanent capacity. They empower people to solve their own problems, to build their own futures, and to do so with pride. There's something deeply empowering about knowing you don't have to wait for outside help, that you have what you need to stand on your own. When you look at those 764 machines, you don't just see metal. You see futures being built. You see roads that don't yet exist but will. You see crops that aren't yet planted but will be harvested. You see children with brighter eyes because their bellies are full and their opportunities are real. You see a continent taking charge of its destiny, not tomorrow, not someday, but now. Ibrahim Traoré'S bold decision to unleash 764 machines across Burkina Faso is more than just a project inside one country. It is a symbol, a spark, and a call that echoes across the whole African continent. For years, many African nations have been searching for a new sense of direction, a proof that self-reliance. This is how movements begin, not always with words, but with visible, undeniable action. And action is what Africa has been craving. For decades, many have grown weary of promises that never turn into reality. But now, the sound of tractors moving across farmland, bulldozers clearing paths, and construction vehicles humming is a new kind of promise, a living, breathing one. It says we're not waiting anymore, and when that spirit catches on in one country, it often leaps to others. Africa's story has always been one of resilience. From the painful scars of colonialism to the struggles of economic dependency, the continent has carried burdens that could have broken it, yet the spirit of its people remains unshaken. What Traoré'S move does is channel that resilience into a visible, powerful form. It tells Africans, we are not just survivors. We are builders. And that message, when repeated across borders, has the potential to weave a stronger sense of unity. Unity has always been Africa's greatest dream, but also its greatest challenge. Borders drawn by outsiders, languages divided by history, and economies fractured by dependency have often made it difficult for nations to move together. But symbols of progress like these machines have the power to unite in a way words sometimes cannot. Because every African farmer understands the value of a tractor. Every villager knows what it means to have a road. Every community knows the joy of food security and the pride of self-reliance. These are universal needs. And so the solutions resonate universally too. When people see that it is possible in Burkina Faso, they begin to imagine it possible in Mali, Niger, Ghana, Nigeria, and beyond. They start to see themselves not as separate nations struggling alone, but as part of a larger story, an African story where independence and innovation are within reach. That shift in mindset is powerful, because belief always comes before action. And once Africans believe in their collective capacity, the ripple effects can reshape the entire continent. There's something deeply emotional in the idea that one leader's courage can light a flame across nations. It reminds us that Africa doesn't need to wait for validation from outside. That greatness doesn't need to be imported. That change doesn't need to be begged, for it can be built. And when people witness this truth with their own eyes, the sense of pride and unity it creates is immeasurable. Of course, challenges remain. Machines alone don't create unity, and leadership is not without obstacles. But symbols matter, and visible proof matters. Sometimes people need to see before they believe. And now they are seeing. They are seeing tractors plowing fields that once lay barren, bulldozers breaking ground where nothing stood before, and harvesters ensuring food for families that once struggled. These images carry weight. They stick in people's minds. They stir conversations in homes, schools, and marketplaces. They create a sense of why not us? That question, why not us, is the seed of transformation. It's the question that makes communities demand more from their leaders. It's the question that drives young innovators to push harder. It's the question that turns quiet hope into loud determination. And when enough people across Africa start asking it, unity stops being a dream and starts becoming a reality. Ibrahim Traoré'S 764 machines are not just changing Burkina Faso, they're shifting Africa's self-image. They are reminding Africans everywhere that their destiny is in their own hands, that their strength is real, and that their unity is possible. And perhaps most importantly, they are sparking a pride that no amount of foreign aid or external validation could ever deliver. Because pride built on self-reliance, on action, on proof, that kind of pride lasts forever. If you believe Africa's rise deserves to be seen and celebrated, then don't miss out on more powerful stories like this. By hitting subscribe, you'll always be the first to catch these groundbreaking updates that mainstream media often ignores. Give this video a like if you want to stand with African innovation. And drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to hear what you think about Ibrahim Traoré'S bold step. Your voice matters here, and together we can make this conversation even louder.